values and beliefs. We can set up some lifelong learning classes and business partnerships for adults, too. And we must take care of our elderly and our sick. Doctors must not be so greedy. We'll set up government-sponsored clinics with tax-paid health care so all can afford it. After all, we have a right to demand that government take care of us when we're sick. Doctors will just have to form a partnership of their own with the committee and accept a decent salary. It's all for the public good, you understand. And there are other things that the community will find necessary to ban in order to assure that the citizens have the opportunity to improve their lives. Obesity is a national epidemic. We must also control what people eat. Our plan will make sure that they eat properly. That's why we can't allow precious farmland in our county to be wasted on raising cattle for beef consumption. Beef is harmful to your health, and so it will be banned. Wheat and soy will be grown on the land instead. Ever had a delicious Thanksgiving dinner of tofurkey? With our new healthy diet as outlined by the committee, we will no longer need things like 7-Elevens and McDonald's and their unhealthy fast foods and snacks. They will be banned. There's one more danger to the happiness and security of our community that must be addressed: overpopulation. The committee will decide the proper number of folks who can comfortably live in our community's limits. If we don't control the population, we will be overrun. Some strict guidelines must be imposed for the sake of the community's well-being and for the protection of our environment. Birth control education and supplies will be a major part of the process for keeping the population down. But if our folks don't heed the committee's warnings, if the population begins to exceed our limits, drastic action will be required. Limits on the number of children a family may have will have to be imposed. Those conceiving children against those limits will have to pay a high price. Fines, of course, imprisonment for exceptional cases. Now, what to do about those yet unborn but illegal babies? Action must be taken for the sake of all of us in the community. Do you understand where we're headed, my friends? Name the issue. Name the aspect of your life that is not affected by such a mentality. All of this and much more is the future under sustainable development. This is not about preserving the environment for future generations. It's indeed a wrenching transformation of America away from a nation of well-protected liberties to one of all-controlling regulations. Across the nation, Americans are now facing an assault on their liberties as never before experienced in the land of the free. On the New River in West Virginia, 100 families suddenly found that they were going to lose their homes to the National Park Service. Why? Because the National Park Service had acquired control over the property years ago when the New River had been designated a National Heritage River. Watch out for those designations and those national parks and all the things that go with historic preservation, because this is where it's leading to. Citizens along the river hadn't read the fine print of the plan until it was too late. A public meeting was called to announce, not discuss, announce the plan to build a scenic parkway replacing their road they had only hoped to have repaired. Been trying to get it repaired for 15 years, called the meeting, they thought for sure this was it. And they find out instead it's a scenic parkway. Citizens attending the meeting were met with armed guards at the door. Inside, photographs of their property were displayed on the walls. Some of the photos showed their homes, and some were digitally enhanced to eliminate the homes, showing the future along the New River. No homes, no people. You see, their homes were in the view shed of the new parkway. Some tourists might like to take pictures of the scenic view, and their homes were in the way. And that's the only excuse they needed. When one elderly family asked a park ranger why they were taking the home they had lived in all of their lives, he answered, "Because we can." In Columbia, South Carolina, the Richland County Council passed a town and country land use vision plan that will restrict forever the use of land by private property owners. Once the land has been tied up with massive use restrictions, the council set up a conservation commission to begin to acquire the land. Those who finally gave up and surrendered their land were then gleefully called willing sellers. My friend Kay McClanahan, a property owner and courageous fighter for her rights, has organized her neighbors to fight the plan. For her trouble, she and her husband were bodily thrown out of a council meeting even after being recognized by the chairman to speak. Kay almost had her shoulder broken as the barely 5-foot-tall lady was pushed out the door by a big burly security cop. She still wears a sling and a brace. She was only trying to speak to her elected representatives who were planning to take her private property. And in Klamath Falls, Oregon, more than 100 farmers have been threatened with extinction after environmentalists got a court order to turn off their water to support a suckerfish. Now the folks who worked their private land and turned it into a thriving oasis are dying of thirst. Their farms turned into wasteland. As they suffer the loss of their American dream, power-thirsty environmentalists move in to buy their land and declare them willing sellers. Would you consider willingly selling your land at 25 cents on the dollar after you've spent thousands on legal fees, lost your livelihood, and seen your entire community destroyed for the sake of a suckerfish? Well, neither did the folks of Klamath Falls. And in Falmouth, Maine, in this beautiful property, Mary Alice Davis seeks to develop a few acres of her 187-acre estate for $1 million homes. But she's been blocked by a community elite who refuse to allow her to use her property for any purpose other than her home that already exists. Again, she is told that her property is someone else's viewshed and their sunsets take precedent over her economic desires. Such restrictions, imposed only on her in the town, have basically rendered her land worthless because no one will buy it with such controls attached. Because Mary Alice wants to achieve her own American dream and profit from her own property, she has been personally attacked. Even her reputation and morality have been publicly disparaged as she has called outrageous names like gold digger and prostitute and cultist. In fact, Mary Alice was cynically told that anything she wanted to do with her land would basically have to be underground. And that started Mary Alice thinking about the urgent need for the community had for a new cemetery. And that's how you fight these people. This is how sustainable development is affecting millions of Americans and their private property, their hopes and their dreams. Remember, to rewild 50% of all the land in every state is called for in the Wildlands Project. Americans have to lose a lot of private land. These are just a very few of the victims. The rest of us are next. But what about the courts, you may ask? We have laws in this country. Keep in mind, those who tell you that the United Nations has no control over our nation, that it is no threat to our sovereignty. And then listen to these words from Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer, quote, "Through commerce, through globalization, through the spread of democratic institutions, through immigration to America, it's becoming more and more one world of many different kinds of people. And how they're going to live together across the world will be the challenge. And whether our Constitution and how it fits into the governing documents of other nations, I think, will be the challenge for the next generations." It's our Constitution and how it fits in England and France and Africa. That's the challenge.